You know what's there? Waiting. Beyond that beach. Immortality! Take it! It's yours!
Welcome to Immortality Lab. I'm Christian Martirana. Good ass homie Brian Devonshire here.
That's me.
Today we are talking about how fat equals the devil? Question
Maybe.
mark?
Who knows?
Brian is going to be taking it away for the most part, and I am going to be chiming in, kicking back. It's no longer October, but I'm drinking an Oktoberfest beer at 9:30 in the morning. What the fuck am I doing with my life? You know what I'm saying?
Hey, man.
But
moderation.
It's okay. It's the weekend. It's the weekend.
You can do whatever the fuck you want on the weekend.
That is exactly right, man. That is exactly right. And remember, everyone, we are talking to you about how to live at 100% until you're 100 years old. Fucking fat. Question.
So you've definitely heard that fat is bad, right? From all of your clients and whatever.
I mean, yeah, I've heard that for sure, but I understand that fat's very necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's good
Absolutely
fats and bad fats, right?
Yeah.
Polyunsaturated. Yeah, like when people are like carbs are bad, I'm like, huh? Like stop that. You know what I'm saying? Like
some carbs are bad. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
nuance,
so,
man.
Trans fat is horrible. Saturated fat is polyunsaturated and monounsaturated. Fucking eat as much as you want. Almost as much as you want. Eating those fats doesn't make you fat.
Oh, yeah. See, that's another misconception right there, too. It's the carbs.
It does make you fat?
Yeah, that fat equals, it's just going to go right into fat.
It doesn't do that, though.
I know. That's what people think.
Okay. I thought you were saying, yeah. All right, dude. Enlighten me, brother.
I will enlighten you. So everyone, there is this common misconception that fat is bad. You should not eat cholesterol either. That's going to fucking kill you. Your heart's going to clog up and you're going to die, right?
No eggs. Don't ever eat eggs.
Do not eat eggs. That is what the Epstein-Barr virus eats. You will die. Okay, so where the hell am I? Let me see. Let me get my notes here.
Yeah.
Look at me. I'm just not prepared.
Oh, it's all good, dude. It's the weekend. We're having fun.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Check it out. Let's get that notion up and ready. Bam. You see that, right?
I do.
Look at this. So this is the Time magazine cover from 1984. It's got like the two eggs as the eyeballs on a plate and a piece of bacon as a frowny face.
What a shitty looking piece of bacon, man.
Yeah, that looks so sad.
Yeah. That butter looks really good. All right.
Yeah. So then in 2014 they have so basically 1984 cholesterol's horrible. 2014 the script flips and they have this beautiful picture of some sliced butter, I guess.
Yeah. Folded, dude.
Like, dude, it's gorgeous. Look at it.
It is gorgeous, dude, especially with like the reflective thing on the bottom too.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful picture. And so that's on the cover in 2014 and they're saying eat butter. So now fat's bad, now fat is good. How the fuck did that happen?
Research, I don't know.
Yeah, basically
experiments,
research, and the story is very interesting. It involves a lot of ignoring research, actually. Okay, so I put this little quote here, 2 quotes to start this off. A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes. So you see that happen all the time, and correlation is not causation.
Truth.
Okay, so there's my sources. I got most of this information from Peter Attia. He has like this series, The Straight Dope on Cholesterol, where he talks to like this fat expert dude who researches this and knows way more than any person should know about fat. So
does he just know about fat, or does he also know about like carbs and protein? And
I mean, Peter Attia knows about all that stuff, but the dude he's interviewing specifically, like his expertise is fat and like blood lipids, like measuring the lipids in your blood and like lab values and stuff.
So he's the guy to talk to, man. That's great.
Yeah, he knows everything. And so, I mean, you can look this up. They have, they wrote out a script for the very long podcast series that they have, and it's a beautiful, it's an educational tool for anyone to look it up. Very complicated, and I'll basically just give you the gist of it in this podcast. So
cool.
I'll save you like 10 hours.
Right on, dude. Fucking not all heroes wear capes, but
yeah, if you want to get lost in the weeds, then go for it. Go in there. All right. So we were just talking about the different types of fats. And so for anyone who doesn't know, I'll just go over those real quick. There's the saturated fat, trans fat, and there's monounsaturated, and polyunsaturated, omega-3 and omega-6. So you know, on the back of nutrition labels, like the saturated fat, they tell you to not eat so much of it. Like, so the theory is that still saturated fat is bad, and that you should not eat more than like 7% of your calories from saturated fat.
Right.
So it's still being recommended, and it's on nutrition labels everywhere that saturated fat is bad.
You know, what's crazy too is a lot of products with good fats in them, like monounsaturated and polyunsaturated, they don't have to be on the nutrition label. Like the FDA doesn't require it. So a lot of companies don't put that on there because so many people are ignorant and they were like, oh, polyunsaturated fat, I don't want that.
Yeah.
You know, and so like the company leaves it out, where it's like, fuck, man, like tell me what I'm eating, you know?
I know, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
So so saturated fat, actually it's inflammatory, it's a little bit inflammatory, so that's not good, but we know that it raises HDL. So you know about these, right? Like the good cholesterol and the bad cholesterol.
Right.
So that
LDL is bad.
HDL is good.
Yeah.
So
and if your HDL is above 60, I forgot what the units is, then you can actually remove, it's a negative risk factor, which is a good thing.
Yeah, you want it to be high.
Cardiovascular disease.
Yes. Yeah. It'll actually so HDL will take fat out of the artery wall. That's what it does. And so you can reverse the disease, basically.
It's amazing.
So look at this. And it's pretty well known that saturated fat increases HDL. What the fuck?
And
they're telling us to eat less.
You're probably going to get into it, so I'll just let you keep going.
So they're telling us to eat less of it, but it does this great thing.
Right.
Why is that?
I eat a lot of butter, man.
Good. It's not going to kill you, man. You're fine.
Well, butter's real. It's a whole food, you know.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me. So you were correct though. Trans fat is you should just avoid that because it's totally unnatural. Your body doesn't really understand what it is. It's inflammatory also. That's actually the one fat that you should probably limit. Like stay away from that.
Like literally zero. Like if you can have zero of it, you should have zero of it.
Yes. So, that's just going to be in like shitty junk food anyway. So you probably shouldn't be eating that shit anyway.
Right.
So you got the unsaturated stuff. And so that just means that the carbons on the structure is missing a hydrogen. And so the unsaturated, it's like you got the two carbons and the two hydrogens. It's like the rock on symbol. So they're pointing up in the same direction. And then trans is like the surfer dude, like the radical, like they're opposite.
Dude, I really like this this little diagram here. Like it makes sense why it's unsaturated. Now that I'm looking at it, it's literally unsaturated to the molecular structure. We're like, look at the saturated one. It's so saturated.
Yes.
It's like,
so
it's so
they're saturated with hydrogen is what they mean, basically.
Correct. That's what. Yeah. Exactly.
So
And
poly
exactly.
unsaturated just means it has more of those rock-on areas.
That's great. So I mean, yeah. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So quick little chemistry lesson there. And so we all know about omega-3 and 6. Those are actually essential. We can't make those. They're actually both inflammatory, if you didn't know that.
I didn't.
Omega-3 is just less inflammatory.
Okay.
Yeah. And so like the standard American diet typically has a ratio of like 20 times omega-6 to 3, which is not good. You want
20 times 6 to 3. Wow. So that's probably why people are like, yo, take your omega-3s. Like, don't worry about the 6s. What about omega? Isn't there 12 as well?
I really don't know. I've never heard of it, honestly.
Yeah, no worries.
But yeah, so you want the ratio of omega-6 and 3 to be closer to like 1 to 1.
Okay.
And then, so the background, quick little background on lipoproteins.
Can I pause you for a second though? Like, all right, okay. So I love getting my shit through real food. So like if I'm eating fish, like that's obviously where I'm going to get most of my omegas from, right?
Yeah.
What's the ratio in that? Do you know? Like in like salmon, for instance, is it 1 to 1? Is it more 6 than 3? I've never looked that up.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
I just know that they have a lot of omega-3.
Okay. Which is good.
Right.
Okay.
I don't think fish actually has any omega-6, but it might.
Cool. All right.
So omega-6 would be in like safflower, sunflower seeds, and oils. Like you'll see that in processed foods. It's just to like stabilize stuff.
Sure. Okay.
Right. So just avoid that stuff. It's actually in the Impossible Burger. I looked that up, the ingredients. Yeah. So they use sunflower or one of those, but it has a lot of omega-6.
Okay.
So you think you're eating healthy, but then you get a dose of inflammation.
Yeah, and that's, man, let's talk about that Impossible Burger for a second, dude.
Yeah.
Like what's crazy is that a lot of people do think it's a healthier choice where it really is not. All it is that it doesn't have meat. Like, right. And it's crazy how people are like, oh, it's healthier. And it's like, no, guys, it literally just doesn't have meat in it. And they had to create something that tastes like meat. So like, all right, man, like imagine creating something that tastes like something, but isn't it? That's not okay. Like, what do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And they put like the fake heme in it. And I guess that has some inflammation effects to it. But I mean, if you're vegan, I guess it works out for you.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I just want to voice that it's not healthy.
Right. Okay. So for the lipoproteins, so that's what
the solar system. I'm looking at the
solar system. Yeah, you have the sun, you got Earth, and Uranus. No. These are the things that are the HDL and the LDL. They're lipoproteins. They're just like little balls that hold all of the fat and stuff that move around the body, and they get delivered to different areas and shit. So cool. you can think of them like little boats that transport fat around the body. And this is typically the life cycle. So they they start out as chylomicrons. So they're huge, and as they go around the body, they deliver fats and they transform into these different types of fat, essentially.
What's IDL? Or are you going to get into that?
It's an intermediate density.
Okay.
And the VL is very low density lipoprotein. Okay. Yeah, so they're just different densities because they have different, like the chylomicrons are very low density because they're just full of triglycerides. Mm-hmm. And the HDL is very dense because it's missing all of that, and it has more protein around the outside, so it's just heavier.
Sure. Okay.
That's basically what happens.
I see. Okay, that's cool.
Okay, check this out. So it all stems from this guy called Ancel Keys in the 50s. So he started, he did his little research study, and he came out with the diet heart hypothesis. So you eat fat, you get atherosclerosis, and you die of a heart disease. But before I get into his little story, he did understand that eating cholesterol has no effect on your blood cholesterol.
I thank you.
That is the important thing. Even
Yes.
this guy understood that in the 50s. But he went on to demonize like saturated fat and other things, and this led to policy. Okay, we'll get into that though.
Please, yeah. Oh, I can't wait, dude.
So yeah, you can eat your
eggs. Eat eggs,
dude. Yeah.
I personally don't like eggs because they just taste like shit to me. But eat them. They're healthy for you. They're such a complete protein. They're so good for you, man.
Shit. Oh. Yeah, you every single cell in your body has the ability to make cholesterol. It's required for life. So the idea that cholesterol is bad is just completely wrong.
It's asinine. That's fucking stupid.
Also, like, because you have the ability to make your own cholesterol, eating it has no bearing on how much of it gets into your blood. So the only thing that's going to limit your cholesterol making abilities is if you're like actually fat deficient. Like you can't make the cholesterol structure from different fat stuff, and like you'd basically die from, I don't even know if that's even possible, honestly. So right. It's non-essential.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. So this is the pivotal study. It's called the 7 country study, and it began in 56 and all the way through 78. So this is his little pretty graph, and look at that. So Japan, Italy, England, Australia, Canada, USA. So this just shows the deaths per 1,000 population of heart disease versus the fat per, like, how much percentage of calories the fat intake was in the diet.
Cool.
So you look at this and you're like, fat's killing people, right?
Right.
And there was a number of problems with the study, and one of them was that he omitted data. Like, here's the actual data is 22 countries, but I mean, you look at that and it's still kind of a positive trend. So, okay, whatever. But also he did this thing where he used food availability data, and all that does is tell you that the USA makes it, like, provides more fat for the people there. It doesn't tell you what they're eating at all.
Right.
There's absolutely, you have no clue how much of it that they're eating with that information. So it's a horrible study, and everything.
And it doesn't tell you what kind of fat either.
Yeah. And he totally just.
Or is this specific to saturated fat, or like what?
It's just fat calories as percent of total.
Yeah. Okay.
So
vague.
Right.
But what's cool, I mean, like, respect, like, he had to start somewhere, you know. It's what, 1948, 1949,
50s, 56, something like that.
What's like where it says exactly where you're looking at.
Okay. So I guess that's data from in the past, and so he began another study later.
Okay.
I don't really understand how that works. Anyway.
Good
observation. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so he had this horribly designed study, and he only looked at fat, and so he didn't even consider like anything else in the diet of those countries. So he had like horse blinders on.
Totally, dude.
He's like, I'm set out to demonize fat, basically. And yeah, so you look at this, and of course you think fat's bad, but what else are they eating?
Right.
What else are they doing?
What kind of fat? This is the most vague. Get it away.
Yeah. I know, it's terrible, man. And so these dudes, some other like Asian guys, they took his information and they looked at it differently. Like they actually took into account like plant fat, animal fat, and protein. And so they did this. So more fat equals less death from everything else other than heart disease. So why didn't he consider that in his study? Like, okay, so he found that fat means more death by heart disease, but everything else went down. So
wait, how does it show that?
These people just looked at the data without the horse blinders, essentially.
Okay.
Different people with using his study, but they looked at it differently.
Okay.
So that's what they found. So everything other than heart disease, there was fewer deaths with more fat. So
which is a good thing.
Yes.
That's a very positive thing. Yeah.
And they also found that plant fat and protein had a negative correlation with heart disease deaths. So like the polyunsaturated, like those things are good, right?
Yeah.
And
well, heart disease is like the #1 killer, right?
Yeah, I think it is.
So
yeah, if I remember.
So what? Holy shit! So wouldn't it be like? I hear what this is saying. Like, okay, there's less deaths from everything else, but in the grand scheme, isn't the heart disease like what we should be looking at?
Yeah, that's why they were looking at this back then too, because I think maybe heart disease has decreased on the ranks of killing Americans, but back then in the 50s, it was #1 for sure. I know that. Yeah. That's why they were looking at this.
For sure.
So he didn't mention plant fat or deaths from anything else, and animal fat. They also looked at animal fat and protein. That had a positive effect with heart disease deaths. So this is like useful information with the data that he had, but he did his little study and only concluded that it was saturated fat intake killing people.
That's how he concluded that from his study.
That's what he came out essentially is saturated fat is not good. It's going to increase total cholesterol and clog your arteries. That's his conclusion.
Dude, that's nuts, man. And what's crazy is like you look at that, like imagine being in that year, right? You'd be like, oh, cool, this fucking scientist came out with this research and it looks good, but like it's not. It's not.
I know.
Man, that's crazy. Don't be fooled. Like, do our own research. That what I'm learning from that is like, holy shit. Even when I look at a research, do my own research on that research.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pick apart the way they study things, and this is why like peer-reviewed science is so good. Like you put out your research there on purpose to get torn apart by other scientists, because you end up with shit like this influencing Americans for like the next 70 years or something.
Right. And then like most people just eat it up like crazy, dude.
Right. Yeah. They hear it from they hear the guidelines from the government and they're like, okay.
Yeah. I love when I see synonymous researches, it's like 7 researches on the same topic and all of them have the same results. I'm like, that's science.
Yeah.
That's what I want. Not contradicting ones.
And it takes time to get all of that done.
It definitely does.
Okay. Let's get back to it. Share my screen again. So some other people looked at it, and the correlation that he found that fat equals more deaths, it basically comes down to let's see, it's like how developed is your country? They'll have more industry, they have better medicine, better nutrition, and more accurate diagnostic capabilities. So if that's what you've basically, there's all of those confounding factors contributing to this little positive trend line. And you have to consider that. You can't just assume that fat is killing people.
Definitely. And I would love to look at that stat on like, not a first world country, man, like in a very primitive place, if you will, because the fats that they're getting are real fats. It's not McDonald's.
Right.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. And who knows, because those countries are underdeveloped and you wouldn't actually have like in a poor country that when someone dies, maybe they'll misdiagnose. And they won't
blame it on COVID or something.
Exactly, something like that, or or if someone dies in their sleep from something, and they're, you know what, it was probably heart disease.
Right.
So it's not accurate. So look at this. When you look at the data again, you put those countries on a different X and Y axis. So this one is average life expectancy for men, as with fat intake. So that goes up. That's interesting. Ancel Keys was telling me that you would die. Life expectancy goes up with fat intake. And when you...
And it's the same year. It's around the same year that is
1950. Yeah. And then so when you plot fat intake per the GDP, the gross domestic product, like basically how developed, how rich the country is, guess what? You get another positive trend.
Wow.
So there's too many things confounding his data. So it's amazing that they listened to this. And that is, man. It really is. And I remember in one of our past podcasts, I think about sleep. It was the sleep one. You were saying like over the years, more than the years, like over time in general, we haven't stopped sleeping, you know? Right. Like we continue to sleep because it's very necessary. So like our bodies are so amazing. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't be like, oh, feed me fat if it wasn't good for us. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And
like there's nothing in my body that is like, give me alcohol besides a psychological fucking thing, you know, but there's no like physiological thing that's like, oh, it's good for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And you look at a piece of bacon and you're like, oh, fuck, that looks so good.
And it smells good because it is good. It's life. Right. It's like, yeah. Dude,
like, why would that be? Why would that carry through evolution if it wasn't good for you?
Exactly.
Man, evolution, it works. Hey, look at that.
I know, man. Yeah, it works. Hey.
So there was this interesting have you seen the Netflix documentary Game Changers?
Dude, I don't have Netflix anymore.
Oh, maybe you've seen it though. Right? It's like 2 years. It's like 2 years old.
Oh, like you were so disappointed.
Sad. Neither do I. I parasite off of other people's, so whatever. But maybe you've seen it. It starts off with this UFC fighter dude with his like injured leg, and basically because he's injured, he can't train, and so he just he sits at home doing research, and he found that like the gladiators were basically vegetarians.
Oh shit, dude. I started watching that and it was so biased.
Yes.
I had to turn it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I know.
Give me 10 seconds.
Okay.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Fuck, I better run fast. 3, 2, 1. All right, I'm back, dude.
Good work, man. Nice. You didn't hold your breath the whole time, though. Come on.
Yeah, right. No, I was breathing. I was counting.
Okay, check it out. So that dude who did the documentary, James Wilkes, like he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he did a debate with Chris Kresser, who we talked about before with like the goitrogens stuff on the thyroid episode.
Yeah.
So they had a little debate. And this thing was interesting. There's just a little screenshot from it. I don't know where he got this data from. When I look up the study, I can't like get access to it. But anyway,
what does postprandial mean?
After eating something.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, it's saying that wild game is less inflammatory than like store-bought. Which, I mean, makes sense. It's probably pumped full of processing stuff and antibiotics.
Right. Antibiotics and all the yeah. Totally.
So if you're gonna meat tastes great, but also you probably just want to eat wild game as much as possible.
Yeah, man, and that's why I truly am okay with people hunting. It's like, but use the animal.
Yeah, exactly.
Then that's it.
Okay, so another problem back then, I mean, it has nothing with the study, with the 7-country study, and it's not his fault. It was like the limiting technology back then. They could only study total cholesterol. So they had no clue what was happening with the HDL and the LDL and stuff
Right.
back then. So
Just because they
had
know?
no technology back then. Yeah.
Yeah.
They found out. So they
So they
discovered.
thought cholesterol was one thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, so when you measure total cholesterol, that just breaks down all of these different lipoproteins and it just measures the cholesterol in them. And so we know now that it's important to have different levels of these.
Yeah.
So it's just another limiting thing. And so that came out around the 70s.
Interesting, dude. What a game changer. You know what I'm saying?
It's very enlightening.
Yeah, truly it is.
So that little diagram is not important. Okay.
Like that's groundbreaking, man. They're like everything that we ever knew about cholesterol is not. Like
yeah. And they made these policies like in this 1977, the first dietary goals for the United States was made. And the 70s. So the American Heart Association told everyone to reduce their fat to saturated fat to less than 10%. And they did all this without understanding that HDL and LDL were a thing.
Right.
I mean, again, it's not their fault, but also it is kind of their fault because they made these goals and guidelines on like shaky science.
Right.
That's what I don't like.
What was it before though? What was there anything before that, or did the AHA just not exist?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know.
If they're like, oh, like saturated fat should be 15, I don't know. That's crazy, you know?
Yeah.
Because like to me, the way I see it is kind of like, all right, they know that most of the fat that people are getting is shit. And it's like, okay, walk your 10,000 steps. Like that's not enough, but it does something. It puts you in the right direction. You know what I'm saying?
And that's the mindset that they just wanted to have a guideline so that Americans could do something to stop the number one thing killing America, which was at the time was heart disease. So
yeah, dude, like
we need to do something.
Like the pressure on them is like a Super Bowl field goal kicker. You know what I'm saying? Like poor guys. You know what I'm saying? Like if you miss that field goal, you're hated.
Right.
And so these guys are like, fuck, dude. Like people are dying. We need to say something about this. You know, that's crazy.
So they rushed out policies, and they didn't let the science work, which I mean would have taken a couple of more years. But yeah, if you're in that seat, you want to do something, you know?
Absolutely. And it's hard to say like, oh, I'll tell you later. They're like, fuck, dude, we need to do something.
Exactly.
Man.
And
that's crazy.
So this next important study was called the Framingham Study, and it's like this huge study involving like hundreds of thousands of people, and they studied them for like decades, and then they studied their kids. I think it's still going on. I could be wrong about that, but so it began in 1948, and this is what they found over the years. So 1959, they had a link. They identified different risk factors and correlations with heart disease. So they associated it with smoking.
Sure.
And then going down the timeline, they identified high blood pressure and high cholesterol as a risk factor. And obesity and physical inactivity. And look at this. So this is unpublished data so they made the link of obesity and physical activity in 67, but in 68, they had unpublished data from this Framingham study. So it's crazy that they wouldn't publish information like totally.
Yeah. Why would you do that?
I don't know, because there was this.
Was there too much data? Like it's just
man. It's just because everyone was expecting cholesterol to be bad. Like there was this one study, I can't remember, but like the
so
researchers,
they just like, wow, dude, that's
right.
crazy.
They were on a witch hunt, dude. They were like, they wanted it to be the bad guy.
It's like, why? If you're a scientist, don't you want to like tell the truth?
Uh-huh.
That's
If you're a good scientist.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy, dude.
I know, man. It's like,
how sad, man.
people talk about weird conspiracy theories, but here's a real one,
No shit, dude. That's nuts.
So in 68, this was unpublished data. They found with people with cholesterol over 300, like really high, and people with cholesterol, like low cholesterol, less than 170, there was no correlation with the type of fat consumed and risk of heart disease.
Interesting.
Like, that's a bombshell, but that's interesting.
Yeah,
right?
It definitely is. So then, is that just the way that their body is? Like, basically, is it just like,
knows?
okay, yeah, right.
But it's still information.
Yeah, no,
that's
absolutely.
contradictory, basically. But they're just like, you know what? We're not going to do it. We're not going to tell people about this. So
You're these dogs, man.
They're little. Oh no, there they go. They're getting all riled up.
Yeah, man.
Okay, so moving down the timeline, in 1970, I mentioned.
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Stop. Cool. That's all they needed.
Okay, good.
They stopped.
So funny.
They just need a reminder of who the fuck the alpha is.
Stop.
You know?
Okay.
Hey, you stop it. You. That's it.
Okay. All right. I don't know why that's so funny.
Oh shit.
Okay. I'm moving through the timeline here. So
Yeah.
the Heart Association in 1970 had their first guideline to reduce saturated fat. And in 74, they found a link between heart disease and diabetes. And 77 was the first dietary goals for the United States. And that's when they told everyone to increase carbs to 50 to 60% of their diet and decrease fat to 30% of their diet.
Wow. So that's not much room for protein there, huh?
Yeah. And so basically what that, it opened the door for those shitty foods that say fat-free and no cholesterol, and they're filled with sugar. So that's like a very important turning point right there. So they wanted to move away from fat, so you have to fill it with something.
Right.
So I'm getting my macros basically, but it's full of sugar.
That's such a high amount of carbs for people who are not athletes. Like, if you're not
for real.
If you're not using that, like, holy shit, that's what turns you fat.
Yeah. And if it's sugar,
this is from the AHA.
This was from Congress. So this was like
straight from the fucking Pentagon.
Straight from the fucking government. And
Jesus, dude.
I know.
Wow.
So they were actually
crazy,
pressured to do this.
Like, I don't know, dude. I love America. I'm an American and I have faith in my country. And so, like, I'm sure others do too. And it's like, oh, if they're fucking saying it, then I'm going to listen, right?
Yeah.
Man, dude, that's some shit, dude.
I know. This is like, it's eye-opening, huh? This is real. This is real woke.
Yeah, man. And this was 77. And this is shit that has been around since 77 that people are like very recently like getting away from. They're like branching away.
I know. It's taken this long. And
yeah,
there's people that still think fat is bad, but I mean, we're slowly moving away from it, which is good.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then let's see here. 1984, which was the first National Institute of Health. They made a cholesterol guideline. So decrease your cholesterol. And this is another, like in 77, they made the dietary goals, even though like they were told by scientists, we don't have enough evidence yet. And there isn't enough evidence to make these statements right now to tell every single American. And so in 84, they did it again. The National Institute of Health with the cholesterol guidelines. They based that guideline on this study, the trial. It's like the Lipid Research Clinics trial or something like that. They followed 3,000 men for 10 years, and they measured like how many.
What a study! 10 fucking years. You know what I'm saying?
I know that's really good with studies, is like how long the follow-up is.
Yeah.
And I mean, 3,000 people, it's not very large.
Almost 4,000.
Right.
For sure.
It's not the largest, but I mean, it's not that bad.
Right. It's some kind of data.
And this is what they found. So the people on the control diet, they did nothing. They didn't change anything. So 37 of them out of 1,000 died from heart disease. And so the intervention group, which was low fat, low cholesterol, and they had drugs to reduce their cholesterol basically in their body. So it was 37 per 1,000 versus 35 per 1,000.
Which is kind of,
it's almost nothing.
Insignificant. Yeah, exactly.
It was technically statistically significant, but I mean, when you look at this, it's almost as if nothing was different at all.
Right.
So they made these guidelines based on that information. And
10 years. These people followed this diet for 10 years. Respect to those people.
Yeah, good for them. And I mean,
seriously. But then that also begs the question, did they actually follow it?
Yeah. Who knows how the compliance was. And
right.
And also it's like ridiculous because they're taking drugs.
I see that.
They're taking drugs also. Like if it might have been more important if they only did diet change.
Yeah, I agree. Or put a third category that had the drugs too.
Yeah. So another horrible study.
Man, like if you're going to put me on a 10-year trial giving me drugs, you better be paying me a lot of money.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know if they got paid.
Drug for 10 years for a study, like you, oh, you're off your rocker, dude.
Yeah. So the authors of that study said this. It was not designed to assess directly whether cholesterol lowering by diet prevents heart disease. So they said that in that fucking study, and they still made National Institute of Health guidelines.
Wow.
And so that basically the people at the consensus table at the NIH were essentially told, this is the consensus, sign it, or like fuck off or whatever.
That's crazy.
So it seems like an actual conspiracy witch hunt against cholesterol, right?
That's crazy. I'm sure money was involved, huh?
Yeah, dude. Big sugar, man. Big sugar.
Yeah, that's right, dude.
And like I said, in the 70s, they finally discovered HDL and whatever. And the first time they actually did a trial on it was 87 to 1991, where they actually found a link between the two different things in heart disease. And what they found was low good cholesterol, HDL, and high triglycerides is much worse than having a high LDL, like by 4 times, basically. 4 times is worse. So interesting.
It is.
And look at this. The first guidelines to limit sugar intake came out fucking 4 years ago.
Wow. That's nuts, dude. So what's crazy too is I understand that some people, like, they just inherently just have a higher HDL than others, and it's not even so much based on their diet. I know diet does play a role, but it's just like who you are. You know, like I remember when I checked out my LDL and HDL levels, my HDL was through the fucking roof, and it's like, oh, cool. And so, like, is it because my DNA, or is it because I've been fed well by my mom for the first 18 years of my life? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's another combo. It's definitely genetic and diet.
I think a lot of it is genetic though, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot. And at a certain point you can't really change that much, right?
Yeah.
Sucks to suck, right? Like,
Sucks to suck. Yeah.
but what's great is like understand that, like, do the best for your body and stop trying so hard. I don't know, like, just be okay. Let bygones be bygones, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what you were given this time. You know what I'm saying? Just let it happen.
It would be good to, if you could do like a genetic test and find out if you actually have genes that make you have higher HDL or whatever. I'm sure we've identified that by now. And, DNA tests are getting cheaper and cheaper. So that's another interesting tool to consider. So you can't just get, labs from HDL and like, wow, I got to change my diet. Like, no, let's see what your genetics tell you,
Right. Not the what, but why.
Right. Yeah. Why?
Yeah. It's
like, oh, you're eating hamburgers and you have bad genes. Oh shit. Okay.
But what's crazy is like, I can probably eat hamburgers and it'll probably help my HDL. That's just me, dude. I don't fucking know. I don't know how to explain
it might, dude.
There
are different people who have like different responders to different types of fat, and they have more receptors for the liver to take up the HDL and LDL.
It's like that dude on Super Size Me that literally eats like 2 Big Macs a day, and he's like thin.
Let's look at his genetics.
All right, dude. Like that South Park episode with the biomes, the fecal Tom Brady. You know what I'm talking about?
The fecal transplant stuff.
Hey, thank you. Yeah. There's like the fucking door that opens and everyone's like, whoa.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Those are fucking great though. They actually do a lot of great stuff. Fecal transplants.
Seriously.
They can, yeah, man, it works.
We should definitely talk about it.
I was reading something recently and it was like, it can actually help cure, or maybe not cure, or who knows how long, it like gets rid of depression.
Wow. So without getting into too much detail about it, because I know we're literally talking about something else already. Like, so how does that work? Like what's transplanted?
Yeah, they're
and then
shit,
it stays with you forever. It just like stays with you, or is it temporary? Or
yeah, it's temporary. I think the effects can last for months though, which is pretty cool. So you don't have to get someone else's shit in your ass for.
But only months.
Like 6 months, yeah.
So
something
every
like that.
6 months you have to put someone else.
Well, dude, it's better than taking drugs, I would think.
I suppose. I guess, dude. I guess.
Well, I don't know, man. We'll figure it out. We'll figure out a better way.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
So I went through this great little timeline here, and so now we're going to get into all of this data that shows saturated fat is not bad. There's no evidence. And there's heaps and heaps of data right here. So I'll just go through it real quick.
Do your thing, man. I'm in no rush. Take as long as you want or as quick as you want.
Okay. So before I go into that, here's another stepping back on the timeline. So a study from 1973, the Minnesota Coronary Study. This is another study that didn't get published until 1989. So after all of the guidelines were made, and it was something that it didn't show that, cholesterol and fat were the bad guys. So the author, he didn't publish it because of that. So he's like, I wasn't happy with the results.
What a piece of shit.
I know.
Like, it's that drives me nuts.
This could have been so pivotal if he did. But no, he was everyone was telling him that cholesterol is bad. It has to be bad, and saturated fat. My study sucks because it doesn't show that. I'm not going to publish it.
Dude, that's nuts, man. And like, okay, I saw this one study that was done. It was on like the flat earth shit, right?
Yeah.
Like the flat earthers. And he was like, okay, if fucking the earth was really round, then this light, he basically like, had a board, right? And he cut a hole in the board and he said, okay, if the earth is round, then the light won't pass through this hole. And he proved himself wrong.
Dude, they do that all the time. It's so funny.
What's amazing is that he had the balls enough to post it to the world. And he's like, shit, The world is fucking round, you know?
Right.
And so like this asshole fucking got some results that he didn't like. And he's like, no. Like,
Yeah.
what a piece of shit.
I know. It's horrible, man. It's a horrible tragedy.
What a horrible scientist. Like,
There's a lot of them,
are you
apparently.
doing it? Aren't you trying to find answers? The best thing that you can do is prove yourself wrong.
Yeah.
Because then you have the answer.
I know. You have the actual answer.
Oh my gosh, man.
It's a tragedy.
It is.
Okay.
That's a great word for it, dude.
So let's go into that study. So it was 9,000 men and women over 4.5 years. So let's see. They did the low fat diet had actually more deaths than the control diet. So that's the opposite of what everyone was telling him, right? So, but he did find that their cholesterol did lower. So you got a positive and a negative right there.
Right.
And so
more deaths, lower cholesterol. So like it's like that tells me that cholesterol is okay.
Right. It tells you that it has no bearing on deaths.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the number of deaths between the low fat and the control group apparently was not it wasn't significant.
Why? That's kind of significant. That percentage difference.
It might not have been statistically significant. I don't really know. But again, it's information that he didn't publish until after all the guidelines were made, and it's horrible.
Right. And
so here's another one, the Lyon study from 2001.
Makes me want to take a statistics class, man.
Dude, don't.
It's well, so I mean, I've looked. Yeah, keep going.
Okay. So this looks at the Mediterranean diet. So you've heard about that.
Yeah. I love the Mediterranean diet.
And
it's my favorite.
It's always like the best
fruits,
answer.
Vegetables, lean meats, and
fish and olive oil, dude.
Yeah.
Like so much olive oil. Like the
I'm
cup.
so
like
excited
the
to hear about this right now because I've never done research on it, but I preach it so wholeheartedly. Like, yo, eat the fucking Mediterranean diet.
It's never a wrong answer. That. Yeah, just always say Mediterranean for everything, and it will work.
Yeah, it's like the Epstein-Barr virus.
Yes, this is a real one though.
Yeah.
And especially coming from like the standard American diet, which the abbreviation is SAD, by the way. So you come off of that and you do a Mediterranean diet, you're going to have a huge positive effect.
Absolutely.
So this one they did in 2001, it decreased risk of heart disease by 50%. And
50%.
And then
my gosh.
But then look at this, man. So the control group and the experimental group, the cholesterol is the same again.
Which once again says, dude, cholesterol's what your DNA is. It's what you are.
This dude from 1973 found that, and here we go rediscovering it.
That's incredible, man.
And so basically the reason Mediterranean is great is because there's a lot of omega-3. And you know, with the American diet, you have too much omega-6. So that's where, but it is just a great diet.
Well, yeah, the vegetables, man.
Mm-hmm.
The fruits and veggies.
Okay, so
man, that's so interesting, dude. That like cholesterol is literally like stop caring about food with cholesterol because your body's gonna do what it does.
For real.
That's nuts.
But it's like the whole zeitgeist, I guess is the word. People that's what they've been taught for their whole life, and they teach their kids that. And it's in the fucking guidelines still. Like, you should avoid cholesterol. You should avoid saturated fat. They're still telling us this, but with no evidence.
Well, I'm looking at this chart now, dude, and there's not that many changes from the control and the experimental. Or it looks like it's kind of insignificant. Maybe it is. Like HDL,
HDL
like the blood pressure. Blood pressure is a great example.
Yeah,
blood pressure is a very good indicator of like cardiovascular health, and it's the same.
Yeah, it's the same. The HDL is the same. And
triglycerides is actually less on the control.
Yeah. So
HDL is about the same. Like, where does it change? This study doesn't show much.
no, I mean, it decreases the
Down
risk
at
of
the
death
bottom,
is the only.
this anticoagulant agent. What is this?
This is the drugs that they were taking. So look, there is more differences with the drugs they were taking
That's
between
where
the experimental
yeah.
groups. So, I mean, it's not a perfect study, but
So what's kind of incredible about this, man, is like our body's gonna do its thing, man.
I know.
Like it almost, like, this is how I interpret this. It almost doesn't matter as much as people make it out to be, of what you eat. Like, just listen to your body and be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this specific research is showing me.
Yeah. But if your family has a history of heart disease, you probably want to do the Mediterranean diet because you're.
But why? Based on this, okay.
So these labs don't change, but
but the graphic,
does. So you actually get less death,
for sure.
But it's
I was
it's
negating
mostly because of like the inflammation decrease. Totally. So I don't think they even measured it in this. So you can't look at that lab value. That's like CRP, but they don't have it here.
Okay. And like, yeah, I was not looking at the graph, and I totally forgot to think of the 50% less.
Right.
So
these labs, they barely change in the way that you expect it to. And like nothing really significant is happening, but you do get less death. So.
And then in a sense too, like maybe that's very small change is very significant for our body, because like our body wants homeostasis, right? And so
yeah, over years it compounds, and look, the study was over 5 years.
Exactly. And it's like a huge change, man.
Yeah. So drink a lot of water every day, and it's going to compound,
Right.
You're going to the path is going to divert larger and larger and larger. Anyway.
Yeah.
So moving along here. So another study from 2001 was a huge meta-analysis. So they just looked at studies that were already done. So 27 well-controlled randomized trials, 10,000 total subjects. They reduced dietary fat. And so this is their conclusion. No significant effect on cardiovascular events. And
by
another
reducing fat.
By reducing fat. And Women's Health Initiative in 2006, another huge study, 48,000 postmenopausal women, almost a 6-year follow-up. And they decreased saturated fat. They increased fruit and vegetable and whole grains. So that kind of sounds like the Mediterranean diet. It did not reduce risk of cardiovascular disease, stroke, breast or colorectal cancer, or diabetes. So it didn't affect any of those.
Wow. From such a change.
By decreasing fat. Yeah. And increasing fruits and vegetables.
Yeah. That's intriguing, man. Especially the increasing of the vegetables specifically.
Mm-hmm. And you might argue that it's not a long enough follow-up to see any change in like cancer or diabetes or something.
6 years though of eating more vegetables.
Long. Yeah.
And like, I guess it also begs the question of how many vegetables were they eating? Right.
But again, this huge study still tells you that decreasing fat is not
49,000.
It's not going to affect heart disease at all.
That's crazy.
And another study, the A to Z diet trial in 2007. So it's kind of a small study, but it's pre-menopausal women for over 1 year. And so they studied different fad diets. So Atkins, the Zone, Learn, and Ornish. So Atkins is like a higher fat diet, and Ornish is like a higher carb diet. On the opposite ends of the spectrum. Okay. So Atkins had the highest weight loss, the highest decrease in triglycerides, which is good, and the highest increase in HDL. So basically that's saying fat is good. And the Atkins diet is pretty cool. And
when you actually follow it, like the real Atkins diet for sure.
And so this Ornish, which was higher carb, you get higher weight increase, your LDL increases, and your triglycerides increase.
And that's from eating more carbs.
Essentially.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. It's another meta-analysis from 2010 with
350,000 subjects.
Total subjects so they're just looking at other studies that have already happened, and they're like trying to figure out if all of that data says anything positive.
Dude.
And they no significant evidence for concluding that dietary saturated fat is associated with increased risk of heart disease. Again, we just keep finding this over and over and over again. Oh, dude, it's crazy.
That is crazy, and especially that one, 350,000.
That's a pretty good number.
That's fucking huge, man.
That's fairly representative.
That's like 1% of America.
Yeah, it is.
That's nuts. That's so many. Holy shit, dude.
And that tells you that there's no risk. That just eat saturated fat, man. It's fine.
Just eat fat that's not trans.
Yes.
Don't be trans.
Be
Fuck,
cis.
How politically incorrect. Jesus Christ, I shouldn't have said that.
So here's another one from 2014. They looked at polyunsaturated and low saturated fat intake. So let's see. So they used 49 studies, 27 other randomized controlled trials, different types of studies, over 600,000 people total.
Wow.
And they found the only fat to have a reduction in risk, it was about a 13% decrease, was omega-3. Hey,
13% is pretty significant.
And so we're finding this information again. Omega-3 is good.
Yeah.
And so here's the quote from the study. Current evidence does not clearly support cardiovascular guidelines that encourage high consumption of polyunsaturated fatty acids and low consumption of total saturated fats. So again, it's like challenging your beliefs that you were saying poly is good, right?
Right.
This doesn't show it.
Right.
Wow. Right. So it's more like
it's not inflammation. That poly and mono is good. They're just not bad.
They're not bad.
But they're not good. It's just calories. It's just like energy.
Yeah, I don't know why people think that they're better. Because they're less saturated than the evil saturated fat, maybe.
Right. And it's literally with hydrogen.
It just changes the structure a little bit.
That's it. Wow, man.
I know. So now we've understood that LDL is bad cholesterol, and we know that because we can use drugs, statins, and doing that, it decreases the LDL in your blood, and it actually decreases the risk of heart attack. So we learned basically it's not like the fat that you eat unless it's like trans fat and omega-3. It's really the evil thing is decreasing LDL. That's what you have to do, and increasing HDL. So we've figured this out from different drugs and stuff. So look at this graph. So what is this? So relative risk of vascular events and the different things that they tried. So diet trials. So it decreases the risk by 20% right there, almost. And statins are basically the same as diet, essentially. And the one thing that really does it is the PCSK9 inhibitors, which is another crazy thing. It's when you take it, it just tells your body to a little LDL is going to float around. And when you're taking this drug, your body is going to be like, nope, grab that bastard and then move it into your liver, and it gets used and recycled and stuff. So it's out of the bloodstream. That's what it does.
Interesting.
And so with that, you get a huge 50% decrease. Look at that. Compared to everything else, it's
that's very, very significant.
Clearly the best.
So should people take that drug?
You have to get a prescription, I think.
Sure, I get that. I get that, but like it's so significant.
If you had to choose between that and the statin, definitely pick the PCSK9.
But like, okay, if you could choose that and not a drug, which one's gonna help you more? Because I hate like putting foreign substance as I'm drinking alcohol, right? Like, okay, wow. That one is obviously showing that it's going to decrease your LDL, right? Like, what are the negative effects from it? Because if there's no negative effects, like, fucking give it to me, man.
Yeah,
Like,
just
you know what I'm
take
saying?
it.
Like, why wouldn't I take it?
I don't know. I don't think there are any negative effects, but who knows? We'll find out soon, I guess.
Yeah.
More studies.
Right? Exactly. Yeah, in a few
But
years.
I mean, you can decrease LDL naturally, so you don't need a drug to do it.
For sure.
But yeah, if it was like over the counter, and I'd probably be popping that shit left and right. So the reason LDL is so bad is because it contains this protein around the outside of it called ApoB. ApoB. So that it's just this huge protein that is actually, so it's ApoB, and every single one of these has ApoB. So the first big chylomicron, the very low density, intermediate density, and the low density has this protein structure on it. And HDL does not have that. It has a different protein. Right. So these, because that protein is on these things, it delivers fat to different places. And HDL has a different protein that does the opposite. So there it is. That's the answer.
Dude, that's crazy, man.
Yeah. And so you need the ApoB to deliver cholesterol into the artery wall to start the plaque formation. So that's the real bad guy.
Yeah.
You want to decrease all of those little boats that have the ApoB on it, the APOB.
So like how do you through natural food or whatever without a medication? Like what? How?
Here it is, baby.
Okay, cool.
All right. But before I get into that, I mean, we mentioned genetics and stuff, and so here's something we'll just go over real quick. It's called LP little a. So it's another lipoprotein with like this weird protein on it. It's like that. And so if you have the genetic predisposition, the genes for it that increase your risk, like only 10 to 20% of the population have it. But if you do, you want to, this is the enemy for those people, the LP little a. You want to decrease that because it increases your risk of like dementia and heart disease by like a huge number, like 4 or 8 times. I can't remember, but it's like you definitely need to get rid of this if you have the genes that make you at risk of it.
Sure.
Okay. So here we go, man. How to decrease LDL and decrease your triglycerides and raise HDL naturally. Here it is, man. You probably already know all of these. It's like so intuitive, it seems.
For some, for right. Sure.
So here it is. There's nine things. So decrease inflammation and be a healthy weight. Decrease sugar, simple carb intake. So those, the more you eat, that's going to lower your HDL, and they're inflammatory. Again, don't worry about saturated fat because there's no evidence. And it increases the good cholesterol. So like eat that bacon, baby. Eat those eggs.
Does fruit lower your HDL?
Yeah, I would imagine it does, but it's probably not as bad as like eating a cookie. You know what I mean?
Of course. Man, like I hate how demonized fruit is sometimes.
Just because there's a lot of sugar in it.
Yeah, dude. And I'm like, what do you mean?
I mean, it comes back to if your diet is 90% fruit, that's not good.
Right.
You have a lot of carbs and it's going to screw up your inflammation and lower your HDL.
Right.
But you still need them. So anyway,
Yeah, like we need carbs. So the best way to get carbs is through fruits and veggies.
And the nutrients in them is what I was getting at.
Yeah, totally.
And so here we go. The next one is, so don't worry about saturated fat. We said that. Don't listen to the guidelines telling you to eat less than 30% fat. So if you're going to listen to a guideline, look into why they made that decision and the studies involved, and try to pick them apart and see if it makes sense. Like, is the science solid? Is it
right?
Is there any science that's telling you the opposite? Anyway, so limit trans fats. So those are actually the bad ones.
Yeah, try to have 0.
So that's going to decrease, if you do that, if you decrease your trans fat, it's going to decrease the LDL particles, like the number of boats in your blood.
Yeah.
So you're less likely to get fat delivered into your artery wall, basically. That's good. Fuck trans fat.
Yeah.
Mediterranean diet and omega-3. So we do that. Less inflammation is good. Exercise, so you get less inflammation with that, and it uses the triglycerides in your blood. So the more you exercise, the more that's going to be lower. All good things. And intermittent fasting is another tool. It will decrease the triglycerides in your blood. It just uses it for energy. And don't be insulin resistant. Don't become a diabetic. But if you do all of these things, you won't be. So you're good.
Right. That's cool that you put it last, because it's like you won't be. Yeah. Unless you're type 1.
Yeah. Then, I mean. I think the problem is with the insulin resistant is that you have so much insulin in your body. That's the problem. So you can be type 1. And as long as you don't inject yourself with like a fuckload of insulin, I mean, if you did that, you would die.
Right.
But that's where the real problem is. So here, let me see. This might be useful for some people. It's like the insulin resistance, it causes the lipid metabolism to derail. So you get more triglycerides. So the lipoprotein boats will be more filled with triglycerides and cholesterol poor. So the LDL will be, it's like diluting it basically, right?
Right.
And so what does your body need to do in that situation in order to deliver the cholesterol and the fats, the right fats it needs? It's going to make more boats to carry all of that fat around. Right. And so that puts you at more risk.
As I to the walls, dude, fucking, man. That's
there
crazy,
it is, dude. That's everything, man.
That's fucking amazing, dude.
Is it a crazy story?
I love it, dude. That was an adventure for me, for sure.
That's good.
Yeah, dude. I learned. That's what we're here for, right? To learn.
Cholesterol's not the bad guy. Fat's not the bad guy. Saturated fat, not the bad guy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Trans fat is. Like those takeaway points that you put at the end that was great. It's what's amazing is that like we just talked for over an hour, and those 9 takeaway points are all of that in a nutshell.
That's
it's amazing. It's amazing.
That's good.
It is.
I tried to make it concise, and hopefully people wrote those down. If you're driving right now, pull over. And write that shit down.
Crash into a fucking. Dude, I need to. Oh man, I just ordered a custom license plate. Oh man.
Yeah.
So, you know the U of A license plates, how it starts with the A, right?
Okay.
And then I did 552 MTH.
What's that? 552.
So there's the A, and then a 552. Ass to mouth, dude. Literally my license plate is gonna say ass to mouth. It's ridiculous.
Beautiful. That's great.
And everyone I've shown it to, they're like, whoa, what is that? Why is your lucky number? I'm like, is a pompadour over here? Can I use this bench over here?
Can I use this bench? Someone's gonna be driving behind you, and it's like, what is that? and then it's gonna hit them when they're at home
Boom.
later. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
They're
I
like,
know,
oh my God.
I know exactly. Like, I'm so excited to piss off the Karens, and I'm so excited for the people that will pull up to me like, I fucking get it. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah, that's right, bro.
exactly, dude. Do you want to try?
No,
Holy
no.
fuck, man.
All right, that's it.
Everyone, thank you for listening in. Brian Devonshire, he's the fucking man. Christian Martirana here. Immortality Lab. Keep on tuning in because we have shit to talk about, and it will never stop because life doesn't stop. And so keep on fucking grinding. Let's do it, baby. Let's do it.
Before I close out, we're gonna talk about what is it? High altitude training.
Yes.
And then I think I'm just gonna go through the list of fad diets after that in a row, just like keto, carnivore.
Cool.
All those things.
I'm leading the high altitude thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Man, I love this shit. I love this podcast. I fucking love it, man.
Learning so much. Here, I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, absolutely, dude.
Immortality! Take it! It's yours!